I recently published a book, literally 2 days ago, 1st of September, and the deadline for uploading the manuscript so that all the nice people who pre-ordered it could actually access it was the 28th, a few days before. I uploaded the manuscript in spite of the fact that these are stories that I've already written, like they're already done, like I wrote them over the past sort of 10 years of my life or so. Even in spite of that, the manuscript was due on the 28th. I uploaded it on the 28th at about 10:30 p.m. Why? Well, because I am a writer and writers procrastinate. It's a very important part of being a writer. And I feel, not to toot my own horn, that I'm honestly a bit of an expert in this at this point. I'm, approaching 35 years of age. I've had a lot of trips around the sun, and I feel like I'm really, really good at this. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to share my top 5 tips to procrastinate and avoid actually writing and finishing your novel or book or whatever kind of creative project it is. So let's get into them. Number 1, the first way to procrastinate and not actually write your book, and this one is a classic. Those other procrastinators out there, you'll recognize this one. It'll hit close to home. The first one is you get excited about other things and other projects whilst you're working on the thing that you should be working on. In this case, these stories, they're kind of existential, they're kind of about growing up, they're kind of the sorts of stories that someone in their late 20s writes as they're approaching 30 and they're thinking about youth and they're thinking about adulthood and they're thinking about all that sort of stuff. So that's what these stories are about. But recently, I've been getting into a lot of like golden age science fiction. I've been getting into a lot of other stuff that's more like space opera-y. That's not a word, but you probably understand what I'm saying. And so I've been having this itch to write some of that. And rather than just doing the sensible thing and just saying, well, I'm currently engaged in a project and this is for the future. This is for future me to deal with and enjoy and also procrastinate from. Instead of doing that, I go, well, let's just dabble in it. Let's maybe write an introduction. Let's figure out some characters. Let's design a book cover. What? And so I did all of that. And then I even started writing the first paragraph. And then I was like, all right, enough is enough. So that's in a folder now. Maybe if you subscribe to this channel, maybe that will come in the future. But really, it doesn't have to be another story. It can be anything at all. It can be some kind of project that you're into. It can be Lego. It can be a video game or any other kind of creative endeavor that you can think of. Just importantly, it has to be separate from the project that you actually have to be working on. So this is a classic. Couldn't recommend it more highly. If you haven't tried this out, go for it. So that's number 1. Number 2, another way, if you have a project and you have a certain scope for it, it's a certain size, another top way to procrastinate from actually finishing it is to decide that actually I'm going to completely expand it. I'm going to make it twice the size than it was originally going to be. And I'm just going to write like 20,000 extra words for fun. In my case, I'd written these 8 short stories and it was kind of hovering around like the 20 to 3,000 word mark. And I thought that's fine for ebook, but if I ever make it print, it feels like it's going to be maybe like magazine size. And I want it to be a bit fuller than that. I wanted to have a book if I ever do go to print. Currently it's just an ebook. And so I thought, well, what I'll do, I'll write a few introductions, where I was when I wrote the story, what I was thinking about, some of the themes, because I really like Harlan Ellison and he does that for some of his stories. But then I realized, well, that's because I'm really interested in him. I think he's cool. I think he's interesting. I like him a lot. And no one really knows who I am or cares about me. So I don't love that idea. So I was like, all right, what if I kind of fictionalize it, right? What if these are like these little interludes that they're sort of stories in and of themselves and they elucidate on, expand upon, dive into, or even offer counters to some of the themes in the story. I'm like, all right, that's kind of interesting. Then what if they sort of connect and they become like a story in and of themselves, right? And it could be like this journey and then it becomes its own thing. And then towards the end, they can like meld into the stories and it can be a bit amorphous and it can be like this kind of postmodern project. And so that's what I ended up doing. And it ended up being really complicated and it ended up being way harder than it needed to be. Admittedly, I am happy with how it ended up, but I ended up adding like a month of extra work and headache that I did not need to. So that's tip number 2. If you have a certain scope for a project, ignore it, double it, and go on right ahead. Point number 3, and this is an interesting one. It's probably not the most time-consuming one, but it's really, really important that you get this right. You fuss over the ending endlessly. So you write your ending, you decide, well, you've put yourself in a bit of a pickle now because it was supposed to just be some short stories, and now you have all of these like interconnected themes, and now you have this kind of spine of a story that runs through the whole thing, and so now you have to write an ending that is the ending of this kind of meta-narrative, but also is thematically satisfying for all of the different stories that you've already included in the collection. And that's hard. So you write it, you decide that's not good enough, you write it again, you decide that's not good enough, and time ticks on, and your deadline approaches, and you think, I'm just gonna walk around in the universe, I'm gonna go for a walk on the beach, I'm gonna just live my life, and the ending will inevitably float into my head. It will come fully formed like some kind of gift from the heavens. I will transcribe it, and that'll be it. Obviously, that didn't happen. What happened was I was then like 2 days before the time pressure was on, and like you'll relate to this. I'm sure you'll relate to this if you are a procrastinator yourself. I'm considering the possibility, as a master procrastinator, that when the deadline approaches and I need to get it done, that my creative juices maybe start flowing. They're allowed, whatever asshole is in charge of opening those gates inside of my body, when it's like 24, 48 hours before the thing has to be done, that's when that gate is open and they're allowed to rush through. So I actually ended up writing an ending that I was really, really happy with. And funnily enough, another aside, and I realize this, I'm rambling, but the actual ending paragraph is something, probably the earliest thing that I wrote in this whole collection. I wrote it in my early 20s, and it's kind of stayed with me. I've never done anything with it. But it just ended up being like touched up a bit, but the perfect paragraph to end the whole thing. So that's like a weird anecdote as well. But it did come to me. I did finish it, but that's tip number 3. If you really want to add that extra bit, that extra spice to your procrastination, just fuss over the ending, rewrite it again and again and again until you are perfectly 100% happy with it. Tip number 4, and the length of this one will just depend on how long your manuscript is or how long your project is. What you want to do, instead of actually writing the bits that you need to finish, you just want to obsessively read over the bits you've already done again and again and again until they just don't really even resemble words anymore. This was certainly true of this project, and I'm like reading these stories. I swear to God, I must have read these stories. I could recite, I reckon, the opening paragraphs to every single one of the stories verbatim from memory. I've read them so much that they stopped even resembling stories anymore. And at 30,000 words, when it grew that long, in the days leading up to when I had to publish it, I was just reading it again and again and again. And I knew I still had to write the ending. It didn't matter. I was just reading it over and over again, looking for little typos. Also changing things that, like, all right, maybe I made a marginal improvement, like a marginal, right? Maybe I said something in a slightly more economical way, but it didn't really get me any closer, and the way it was kind of fine. So this is like an interesting one, and if you're an obsessive person, that you will relate to this. But rather than working on the thing you need to work on, rather than like pushing it through and getting it finished, just obsessively reread it until it becomes complete nonsense. And finally, the last thing is, even when it is ready, right? Even when it's almost there, even when it's kind of ready to go and you're happy with it and you've added in all your extra words and you've started other projects and you've reread it obsessively and you've done all this stuff, just let it sit on your hard drive for the last few days anyway, because what happens is you don't really want to let it go. You start having all of these worries and all of these fears. You start thinking, thing is, though, the whole thing might be terrible, and it's probably riddled with typos, and if people read it, they're going to think I'm stupid or I'm not a good writer, and you're going to have all of this self-doubt weigh upon you, and so it's just going to sit on your hard drive, gathering digital dust, and it's just going to go and go and go, and it's going to get to the final hour where you could have an internet outage, right? And then you wouldn't have to post it at all. You'd miss your deadline. So, and I was even in a hotel room when I uploaded mine, which, famously spotty Wi-Fi. So this is a really, really good one because it might mean that you actually never have to finish it at all and you never have to upload it at all. And all of those people who pre-ordered it, they won't even get a copy. So I would say this is a pro move. This is like a pro move, which is just, you don't publish it anyway until you absolutely have to, and it is at the final second. And here's another thing. And this is what makes this one kind of special, is that it's all in vain anyway. I don't know if you've heard about this, but there is a law of nature, physics, like whatever you want to call it, but there's a law that means what happens is you read your manuscript over and over again. You pick over it, you toil over it, you make sure that everything is perfect, spell checked, get another pair of eyes on it, whatever it is. You upload it, it goes live. Then everyone does this. You say you're not going to do it, but you do it. You then open your manuscript, your live manuscript, right, that you've just published, that's going out on Monday, that your pre-orders are going to get. You open it, and the universe takes you immediately, within seconds, to a page with a typo in it, bold as brass. There it is. That's just an extra word there that doesn't need to be there. Like, how did it even end up there? Where did it come from? I don't know, but that's like a law of the universe. And so even after all of that, I ended up going through the manuscript again and uploading another version. So if you're seeing this now and you go and download it now, this is like the second version of the manuscript, and you can rest easy in the knowledge that those pre-order people, they've got a version with a typo in it that is just there front and center for them to see. So yeah, I say that was a pro move, an advanced one. So they're all the ones I've come up with. They're some of my favorites. You'll have your own, I'm sure. There are a million ways to procrastinate. So I want to know, what are you doing instead of writing your manuscript or finishing your creative project? I'd like to hear some really, really creative ones in the comments. Maybe some things I haven't tried that I can try next time. So yeah, I look forward to seeing those. If you did like this video, please subscribe, give it a like. If you do want to read my short story collection, I've left a link in the description. It is available on Amazon now. That'll be much appreciated if you downloaded that. Give it a read. And other than that, I'll see you next time.